Hello there, today we're going to talk about Episode 4 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Just as a note, there will be spoilers, so if you haven't watched this episode yet, this is the official spoiler warning. I'm going to apologize in advance for some background noise around me. We have a puppy now, and sitting still and being quiet aren't her forte. The first thing I wanted to talk about today is that there have been a couple of missed opportunities for Reva in Episodes 3 and 4. In Episode 3, when Reva finds the safe house for the path and is looking around it, there's a brief moment where it felt like we were going to get some kind of flashback. However, that didn't happen. We get another moment while Reva is interrogating Leia in Episode 4 where it feels like there was a good spot for a flashback, and again it didn't happen. My reason for mentioning this is that these would have been very good places for a very brief flashback, one that is maybe a couple of seconds long at most, and gives the audience a snippet about Reva's motivation to get Kenobi, or even better, what happened to make her turn to the dark side. I think these were both missed storytelling opportunities, ones that could have given the audience more information about Reva, which would probably help the problem that some fans are having with Reva. They aren't feeling any connection to her because they don't know anything about her other than she's angry and is a so-so inquisitor. If the storytellers could take these small opportunities to flesh out Reva as a character, it would really help this series out. So as we all know, this run of Kenobi is only 6 episodes long. Most information from Disney Plus right now about the series say that it's a limited run series, but there are rumors of a second season. I have issues with that, but I will hold on to those thoughts until the conclusion of the season. At any rate, Kenobi is a short season, with episodes so far ranging in length from 56 minutes to 39 minutes. Best case scenario, we get 6 hours of this series, assuming the remaining 2 episodes are longer, to set up the ending of the season, and then the end of the season. Hang with me here, I'm going somewhere with this. This means that in the somewhat shorter season of a show where we really don't know if there will be a second season, we get a Prison Break episode in this 4th installment. While I don't mind that kind of story on a serial show like Clone Wars, Rebels, or even The Mandalorian, this show is a bit too short for that, as this week's episode felt more like a filler episode without a lot of story progression. We are in roughly the same place we were a couple of episodes ago where Obi-Wan has rescued Leia and is making an escape with her. They're being tracked by the Empire and most likely will be found by the Empire yet again. The only really new information we got this week is that there are Jedi being held in what Obi-Wan calls a tomb at the Fortress Inquisitorius. I'm seeing fan theories that are saying the Jedi that are at the fortress are not in fact dead, but they are being harnessed for Darth Sidious, or their blood is being harnessed to make the Inquisitors and maintain Darth Sidious, and a variety of other theories in that vein. However, I think it is much simpler than that. I think they really are tombs, and is more like a trophy room, not unlike something you would see at a hunting lodge with animal heads on the wall. I also don't think it is something the Empire makes public, as there is always the potential for that to backfire on the Empire, but it is something that the Inquisitorius can have to mark their victories. I know that is a bit morbid, but we just saw Vader kill innocent villagers in that last episode, so it isn't out of the realm of possibility. So towards the beginning of Episode 4, there are comments made by people involved with the path that seem to imply that there isn't much security around the Fortress Inquisitorius because who, outside of the Empire, would be willing to go there? However, the Empire is not known for being lax on things like security. It seems like there should be at least a minimal amount of security so that the Empire would know if there were any unauthorized ships approaching or in orbit around the fortress. We also see Tala have a hard time making it into restricted areas at the fortress and get questioned for using a terminal at the fortress, which makes it seem like there is security at the fortress, but only when it's convenient for the story. At the end of the episode, we have Obi-Wan, Tala, and Leia trying to just walk out the door with Leia being kind of hidden under a trench coat. No one seems to notice those three, which with sirens going off that would seem to imply people at the fortress should be on higher alert, but it seems they aren't being more aware of their surroundings and wind up nearly letting those three walk right out the door. And those three are nearly out when Reva happens to find them. Before Reva can do any permanent damage, they are helped out by people from the path, and then they make it out after joining up with the ship that is part of the path, which was in orbit undetected by the Empire. Like I said, it seems there's security, but only when it is needed for the story. We know that Reva put a tracker in Lola, but was that done as a safety net in case something happened? And if that is the case, that implies more issues with security at the fortress and the Inquisitor's abilities. Was the tracker placed because it really was Reva's intention to let them go? We see Vader about to nearly take out Reva for her failure, but she squeaks out that she let them go, and Vader backs down. First off, Vader wouldn't back down. And secondly, it seems like no one else was in on this plot to let them escape. They were being shot at by stormtroopers, and they tried to take out the path's ships, and even successfully take out one of them. I guess in an effort to make it look like they were having a tough time escaping the fortress? But it feels like the storyline wasn't well put together. There's a kernel of a good idea in there, but it just doesn't feel like it was finessed into a great episode. Because if it was Reva's intention to let them escape, and the tracker is in Lola, why would that mean that it would lead them to Kenobi? Obi-Wan isn't going to keep Leia's favorite toy when he drops her off. While we haven't seen it yet in the show, the reality is that either Obi-Wan takes Leia directly back to Alderaan, or he takes Leia to a meetup point with Bale to get Leia returned that way. And then all the tracker does is confirm that Leia has been returned. I guess it is conceivable that the tracker is more of a listening bug, and maybe it will pick up and relay information back to Reva about what everyone around Lola is saying, but that would be one heck of a tracker at that point, as Lola isn't a big droid. And then you could start going down the rabbit hole of transmission range and a tracker of that size, etc. At any rate, the tracker and Reva letting them escape doesn't make a whole lot of sense at this point. I know a lot of that sounded convoluted and a bit wandering, but honestly it felt that same way watching the episode. Speaking of reuniting Leia with her adoptive family, this series also opens up questions about why Bale isn't being more closely watched by the Empire now that there's an apparent link with Obi-Wan. We all know Bale is a key figure in the rebellion, and so it seems like this kind of attention on his daughter that lures out a Jedi doesn't bode well for him helping to get the rebellion going, because it clearly demonstrates some kind of link between Bale and Obi-Wan. Assuming Obi-Wan reunites Leia with her family and he escapes the Empire, why isn't this used again to lure out Obi-Wan? Also, Leia is able to resist Reva's mind probe. My understanding is that part of Leia's Force abilities is to be able to resist mind probes and to be able to mask her Force abilities. This is the explanation for why Vader wasn't able to successfully break her in A New Hope. However, it is now known that an Inquisitor wasn't able to penetrate Leia's mind for information. How is it that when Vader is interrogating her in A New Hope that red flags aren't raised regarding her ability to resist, since this is the second time that we have seen in live action that Leia has resisted interrogations? Once could be a fluke, or someone not very skilled, but twice that we know of is quickly moving away from being a fluke and moving into the territory of needing to check Leia's midichlorian count. As far as Kenobi's force blockage is concerned, he is barely able to move a bit of metal at the beginning of the episode, but by the end of the episode he is holding back basically a C in order to give Leia time to get behind a bulkhead. That is a lot of progression in this one episode. To some extent, it makes it seem like it is all coming back to him, much like riding a bike. Also, to a certain extent, that makes sense since a Force-sensitive person has to clear their mind and let the Force flow through them. And I don't necessarily need to see a hero's montage of him attuning again with the Force. What I don't want to see, though, is a flip-flop of he can use the Force, oh wait, he can't use the Force here in this critical moment, but he can use the Force again here, and so on and so on. That would be distracting and confusing, especially in this short series. Episode 4 is not a terrible episode, and there are kernels of good ideas there. For instance, there is some neat imagery like flipping back and forth between Vader and Obi-Wan in the Bacta tanks. We see the bond between Obi-Wan and Leia growing, which on a personal level made me happy to see Obi-Wan getting a chance to show his compassion again. I also thought Obi-Wan attacking the troopers in the pitch black while rescuing Leia was a cool visual and shows some of the reasons why he is a Jedi Master. But that was about it for the episode. There wasn't a whole lot that happened. There was a Jedi tomb reveal, but even that wasn't surprising, as we know from Rebels that the Empire had Luminara entombed in a similar fashion to what we see in the Fortress. It was at least a nice nod to what we previously saw in that series, though. So here are my questions for you. Do you think it really is a Jedi tomb in the Fortress Inquisitorius, or do you think it is something else? Do you think it was Reva's plan all along to allow Obi-Wan to escape? What was your overall impression of this episode? Also, I would love to use these videos to showcase fan art. If you have any you would like for me to include in the videos, please send it over and I will do my best to include it. Well, I think that is about it for this entry. So I just wanted to say, I hope you have a great day and may the Force be with you.